Hey guys, just to let you know, I'm gonna have to hop off at 1. I have
Okay,
another thing I've got to do. I'm sorry.
no worries. I think it'll be a short meeting.
Oh,
Save that
sweet.
thought.
All right, I am. All right, good now afternoon, everybody. We have ourselves a quorum and there's no on right behind the screen. Thanks. So we've got ourselves a quorum of 5 of the 7 members. Mr. Fox, can you go through and give us a roll call?
Yes. Mr. Zarnecki,
Yep, I am online.
Mayor Hopkins,
I'm here in person.
Ms. Tidwell,
Here.
Mr. Krass.
He doesn't have talking privileges yet.
Okay, I'll come
Yes.
back to him. Mayor Church. I'm here. And Ms. O'Neill is absent at this time.
She's here.
Oh, she's online as well. Okay, we're doing a roll call. Mayor O'Neill
Here.
and Mr. Krass.
I'm here, thank you.
All right, well, that gives us a quorum of 6 of the 7. Ms. Little's going to be absent. So we're good there. Why don't we go ahead and do an introduction of staff members and guests. So we're going to go ahead and do staff and then
Jackson Fox, the fast planning.
Olivia Lunsford, fast planning.
Corey Druidley on fast planning.
Deborah Todd, fast planning.
go ahead and start over here.
Colin Spillman, borough planning.
Brett Nelson, Alaska DOT. Don Galligan, Borough Community Planning.
Janelle Marin, public.
All right, welcome. And then
BZ Benson, 240 Henderson.
thank you, BZ. Mr. Beck,
Outback DOT.
BM White,
That'd be Ben White, DOT.
you, and then Mr. Ganya Haas. Here with the public.
You pronounced it right. It's Gagne Haas, Alex Gagne Haas of Fairbanks.
All right, thank you, Mr. Ganya Haas. All right, so with that, can we get an approval of the June 17th agenda for today? Do I have a motion?
Move to approve the agenda for today, June
Thank you.
17th.
All right, do I have a second?
Second.
Online. Thank you, Mr. Kraft. Moved by Church, seconded by Kraft. Do we have any amendments to that motion? All right, seeing none, can I get a roll call approving the agenda?
Yes, Mayor Hopkins,
Yes.
Mayor Church.
Yes.
Mr. Krass,
Yes.
Mr. Zarnecki,
Yes.
Mayor O'Neill,
Yes.
and Ms. Tidwell.
Yes.
All right, thank you very much. So with that, we've approved the agenda. We're gonna go ahead and approve the minutes from the last meeting on May 20th. Do I have a motion to approve last minutes?
Move to approve.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Moved by Church, seconded by Zarnecki. Thank you both. Do you have any amendments to the minutes from last meeting? We do not. All right, so with that, can I get a roll call to approve the minutes?
Yes, Mayor Hopkins.
Yes.
Mayor Church.
Yes.
Mr. Krass,
Yes.
Mr. Zarnecki,
Yes.
Mayor O'Neill,
Yes.
Ms. Tidwell.
Yes.
All right, thank you very much. We have that. We have a unanimous vote on approving the minutes. So with that, next up, we've got our staff / working group / chair report. Mr. Fox, take it away.
Yeah, my staff report begins on page 15 in the packet. Few items I want to highlight for you all. First one of which is that we've continued to meet with the city of Fairbanks and some officials at Fort Wainwright to advance some safety improvements at the Tranny Gate Road and F Street intersection. In addition to the speed tables that will be installed as part of the Fast Improvement Program, we're proceeding forward with a quick build of asphalt art and flexible delineators at that intersection for the summer, and they may be in place for the next year or two until a permanent improvement is constructed at that intersection, as far as bringing in the sidewalk curbs in closer to the intersection and consideration of closing the turn lanes along Trainer Gate going east and westbound into that intersection to make it more safer. Our first scheduled paint day is June 27th, Saturday. Olivia will be sending out a call to volunteers to assist with that. But we are being supported by city engineering and city public works with the traffic control plan and deployment of traffic control features so that that paint day will be safe. Next, I want to note that I've been working with the Matsu MPO on developing a new policy and procedure for our transportation improvement program, or a TIP document. They have one that they have drafted for themselves. They're in the midst of preparing their very first TIP document ever. We, of course, have been doing it a long time. Our policy and procedure is quite outdated. I think it's greater than 12 years old at this point. So I've begun drafting a new policy and procedure for development of our TIP, which I hope to present to our technical committee and policy board next month for consideration of replacing our current policy with a new policy. Also want to make note, though, that on Monday, we have our statewide MPO quarterly meeting here in our office. It's an all-day meeting. All 3 MPOs and all their staff will be up in Fairbanks, as well as some folks from DOT from Anchorage and our local DOT reps. The division administrator and deputy administrator will be here from the Federal Highway Administration Alaska Division, flying up from Juneau to be here on Monday. So we'll be talking with them about a variety of different topics, but this will be one of them to present our new draft TIP policy and procedure to the other MPOs and the Federal Highway Administration to see if they have any feedback or any additional sections we might be missing that could strengthen that policy document. And again, I'm hoping to present that to the technical committee and policy board next month at your July meetings. Somewhat related to that, DOT is moving ahead with their long-range transportation plan, and they hosted a meeting here in our office with all fast planning staff to talk about a few different scenarios for their long-range transportation plan. One of the things on the policy side, we as staff had asked of DOT planning staff was to consider having the state adopt NACTO guidance. So this is the National Association of City Transportation Officials for projects within urban areas. Currently, the state relies on AASHTO guidance, which is the American Association of State Transportation Officials, but there are separate guidance for city transportation officials, which gets into a lot more granular detail and offers a lot more design opportunities for urban roadways. So we had that initial conversation with DOT planning staff last week. Yesterday, I had that conversation with the city engineer, Tim Zinza, City of Fairbanks, to see perhaps would the City of Fairbanks adopt that NACTO guidance so that as we move forward with urban road projects, that can be relied upon for their stamp designs. And we did confirm 2 guidance documents from NACTO are may be used on federally funded projects. That's their urban street design guide and their urban bikeways design guide. So it has been approved. Federal Highways will approve federal expenditure on projects designed with that guidance. So this is another discussion point that I think I might bring to the technical committee and policy board next month to see how all you feel about that. And perhaps we might write a letter to the state encouraging them to adopt this guidance for use in urban areas in Alaska. Next topic here, our TIP amendment number 3. We did hold our interagency consultation meeting for air quality conformity on Monday, so just a couple days ago. And we did get the green light from that group to release that amendment for public comment. Both projects, the 5th Avenue park improvements and the Airport Way Connected Corridor projects, the group did find those projects meet an exempt project type for air quality conformity, so we don't have to do any new air quality conformity analysis for those projects to move forward. And our intent is to release that document for public comment on Sunday, June 21st, and run that comment period through July 24th. So this would return to your agenda at your August meeting for adoption. On the next page, underneath public outreach, we did complete our annual bike and pedestrian counts at intersections throughout Fairbanks and North Pole, May 26th to 28th. I believe this was the week following our last policy board meeting. And Olivia, we had 70 spots filled up for counts roughly at that. So it was our highest turnout so far for the count program. We're close to.
Yeah, close.
So it was really great to see residents of Fairbanks North Pole come out to participate in that and help us collect data at those intersections. And then let's see, last year for my staff report, we did get the letter from Alaska DOT that our last TIP administrative modification number 8 was incorporated into the STIP, and that has been passed along to our federal partners. So we can move forward with those project adjustments. And then page 17 is the technical committee action items from June 3rd. The technical committee briefly continued discussion of the proposed funding split for Federal Transit Administration Section 5307 funds. This would be a proposed split between the railroad and Max Transit. That was postponed, so that conversation will get picked back up at the July meeting of the technical. We will wait for a recommendation from the technical committee. Only after that will we bring it to the policy board for you all to make your decision on. But the main agenda item for them on June 3rd, which is the main agenda item here for you today, is they did recommend the policy board approve release of our draft 2027 through 2028 Unified Planning Work Program, or our staff work plan, for a 30-day public comment period. The one amendment that was made at that meeting was to add an airport way audit underneath task 300. Within that plan, this would be not a consultant-based effort or study. This would be a staff level multidisciplinary team between fast planning staff, various borough departments, city engineering, DOT for construction, and DOT M&O to do an audit of Airport Way, looking at past improvements that have been recommended for the corridor and trying to identify specific projects along Airport Way that we could consider for funding in our long range plan and our TIP. So things that we could implement the next 0 to 5 years on Airport Way to make it better than it is today. So that has been added into that work plan, and you'll see that when I present it later in the meeting. And that concludes my report. Oh, I'm sorry. I do have one more thing in the packet. Pages 18 and 19. This is the latest letter from the Federal Highway Administration. There's been quite a bit of back and forth between the Federal Highway Administration and the Alaska DOT Commissioner's Office and Attorney General's Office regarding the MPO's authority to decide which projects are included in our TIP. And this is the last letter in a series, which I think buttons it up really well, where the Federal Highway Administration is reiterating that the MPO is the sole authority to decide which projects to include in the TIP, regardless of whether those projects are really significant or located on the national highway system. So the bottom line here is if there's a particular project that the Alaska DOT might be pushing to be included in the TIP, it is still the policy board's decision to include that or exclude that project from the TIP. This board still has that authority, and it is spelled out very directly in this letter. Now that concludes my staff.
Thank you very much, Mr. Fox. Any questions for the staff on that report? Mr. Krass.
Thanks. Great report. The meeting with the MPOs that will be taking place here in Fairbanks, would it be helpful to have policy board members in the room? I know I really appreciated being a fly on the wall when, well, I wasn't a fly on the wall, but some noisy fly on the wall when there was the, coordination that happened with Federal Highways as well as DOT and the MPOs. Then what was that, 2 years ago now? And so I'd be interested in listening in. I don't know if that would be helpful. And then, yeah, what time and any additional details, I'd appreciate that.
Yeah, thank you for the question, Mr. Krass. For this MPO quarterly meeting on Monday, any policy board member that would like to attend is welcome. It is 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. There will be a lunch break. Most folks will be in person here in our office, but we do have a Microsoft Teams link if you just want to listen into the discussion. This is not an advertised public meeting, so I just ask that if board members are interested, no more than 3 attend that meeting. But the other thing I want to note is that we have changed the format of these statewide MPO quarterly meetings. They're now being led by the MPOs, no longer being led by the state DOT. So I am the host of the meeting, and I think all the folks that we invited to attend are in good company. And we have a very, in my opinion, fun agenda to work through. There's quite a few positive topics as opposed to some previous agendas where there's some contention in the room. I don't expect contention at this meeting. But yes, if you would like to listen in or coming in person for part of the day, any time of the day, board members are very welcome.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Yeah, there some great insight to be had, kind of, getting a little bit deeper and seeing how the sausage is made. Appreciate it.
I will forward you the invite, Scott,
When is that?
Monday,
I will not be.
June 22nd.
Any other member, policy board members want that invitation? Or should you shoot it to the whole policy board in case?
Yes, I can.
Okay, thank you.
You will have to let us know if you come as a.
Yeah,
Oh, May.
no more than 3.
No more than 3. Any other questions on the staff report? Thank you very much. I'll have a couple more on the airport way when we get to the called the Unified Planning Work Program. All right, thank you for that, to the staff and all your work. With that, we're gonna go ahead and move into the public comment period. I think we've got a couple people here. Is anybody in the room? Okay, nobody in the room wants to comment. We will go ahead and move with the first hand up. Mr. Gagne Haas, take it away. You have 5 minutes.
Hello, thank you for letting me publicly comment. The first thing I would note is that when I went for meeting materials, I couldn't find anything later than April on the website. But looking at this meeting, they seem to be pretty up to date. It's just that nothing has happened since April. And it comes back to the sort of originating question of how does the MPO directly benefit me, somebody who tries to bike and walk across Fairbanks without being hit by cars, and how roads so often become barriers, as this recent projects have exposed. I believe wholeheartedly that nothing really has happened since April. I don't see a lot of movement. Looking at the April movement, I guess the big update is that there's a 5-minute limit on public comment. Someone must have finally run over on you, which I tend not to do. I'm more pithy. I'm concise. Thank you. But yeah, I guess so. 20, 30 years later, we're about next year to have a Tanana Valley Railroad walk. Awesome. I guess next year it'll be awesome, though. This year it's still not built. Maybe that'll happen. Maybe biking improvement will happen. I see pushback already against the thought of reducing the lanes on College Road, which we try to preserve as a sort of state highway, a 2-lane fast highway at certain hours of the day. And then some children and elderly people try to make their way along these wide shoulders that have been, cemented in as sidewalks nominally. But those function kind of as shoulders because there's nothing keeping you off of them. And the people are flying by, it's unsafe. Another notable issue is congestion in Fairbanks. We've got all this backup on the highway. Somehow it seems like there aren't alternative routes. That's bad. Commerce needs alternative routes. One thing that jumped out at me from the reports is the idea that Mat-Su has never had a tip. I think they're worse off than us. I think they are poorly designed, just trying to drive through their main strip of a town. There's nothing there. It's bad. But also, how much have they saved on tips? For a long time, that was the Mat-Su contention. We don't have to pay all these fancy engineers, get these fancy designs. We can just build whatever we want. And if the endangered newt gets squashed, well, we never studied for him in the first place. There was no newt provably there. Are they ahead of us? Hard to say. I'd say they're behind us. But we did spend a whole lot more money on offices, on engineers and designs, on things that were never built and never done, like the Barnett Street corridor, which has disappeared from your memos. I guess you fixed it, huh? Barnett is fixed. I know that's not true personally. Even the Siberian pea hedges that I complained about, they're still there. They obstruct over half the sidewalk. You don't maintain the corridors you do have. And yet, it's not on the agenda. Maintenance is never on the agenda. Another interesting thing to me is how recently the frontage road next to airport was redone. They were putting in sewer pipes or something. I was never noticed. And I don't see anything in your agendas about this project. Clearly the city can do some amount of work on its own. Clearly the city could actually put some of these private contractors out of business by simply doing the work on its own with its own people cheaper than private enterprise could ever compete. So why don't you? Our roads need help, we need more work, and we need to fix what we have and not build new roads. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Ganya-Haas. Before I jump on board, I do want to say, the staff was reviewing the materials for the meeting. It is there for this meeting for 6/17. You go to the fastplanning.us, you to go to the drop-down menu for meetings up at the top. And then if you click on the start time sort button at the top of all of those, it does show the 6/17 agenda items are up there. So they are there. Just want to let you know. I'm sure that's exactly how you managed to get all the other materials you've got, but it's being shared on the screen there now, so it is available. Don't know why you weren't able to find it, but it was there. So just want to let you know. Thank you for your input. Are there any questions for Mr. Ganya-Haas? All right, thank you very much. Appreciate your time and calling in once again. With that, next up on the public testimony, we have BZ Benson. Did you want to comment, Ms. Benson?
Yes, I have comments in of two types. First, I will comment as a resident of Henderson Road, which will be significantly impacted by the construction of the North Star Resort by Dan Keck. There is a lot of neighborhood concern about what will happen to Henderson Road. It is regularly subject to breakdown. It's been patched twice already this season, and still significant potholes remain. So the residents of this neighborhood are interested in having some interaction with fast planning about what your anticipation is as to what will happen with Henderson Road if we do have this construction and subsequent operation of a major resort on Esther Dome accessed by Henderson Road. The other thing that I am here is more for professional interest. I'm director of research for a small organization called Accessible Design for the Blind, and we work extensively on the national level on transportation policy, including transportation engineering, and particularly traffic control devices, such as signals and markings. I'm a member of the National Committee on Traffic Control Devices, helping to shape the manual on uniform traffic control devices, and also had significant input into the recently released public rights of way access guides implementing the ADA for public rights of way. And so I have just considerable interest as a professional involved in transportation, in what happens with transportation in Fairbanks. So I'm trying to learn more. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Benson. I appreciate that. Do we have any questions for the Ms. Benson? Mr. Church.
In your role as a member of Access for the Blind, I think is what you said, is that correct?
Accessible design for the blind, yes.
Accessible design for the blind. Do you have a plan that would cover the Fairbanks area or Fairbanks North Star Borough area to help in planning access for the blind?
We don't have a plan. However, we could act as consultants. The bulk of our research is not kind of locally specific. It is development of federal policy, human factors research that looks at a treatment that is intended perhaps to make street crossings more accessible to blind people, and evaluate whether that in fact works prior to making any kind of recommendation for a regulatory change.
Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you very much. Any other questions for Ms. Benson? Thank you very much for that. Just as a quick note, ma'am, I'm sure you're aware the fast planning deals with transportation issues and infrastructure within our metropolitan boundaries. Henderson's outside of those boundaries, but myself, Mr. Crass, and the Department of Transportation all do work, of course, with that area, despite the borough's lack of road powers. So happy to meet with you to discuss those further. I've met with a number of residents in that area about those issues, so familiar with them. But fast planning doesn't have a lot of wherewithal over that because that road's outside of the boundaries. But happy to continue that discussion in a different capacity. So thank you very much. So with that, we have closed. I'm going to go ahead and close public comment, and we're going to move on to 7A, which is the old business metropolitan planning area. Update from Alaska Department of Transportation on the governor's approval of the MPA boundary expansion. And is there any staff reports or any updates you'd like to give?
No, I do not have any update.
Okay, no updates from staff. The Ms. Little messaged in an email saying there was no update on her end. I did talk to Commissioner Anderson and texted with the governor a little bit. That has been moved to the governor's desk, as they said. That was confirmed. The governor said he will be working with Rachel, his staff, to get it signed. Commissioner Anderson intimated that it's not immediately pressing because the impacts don't go into effect until December. I responded that I'd rather not have this go to another governor because that's when the next governor would be in, and trying to spin up another administration on this issue would be cumbersome, to say the least. So I'll continue working with them. But I think at this point, I would like to have somebody entertain a motion to draft an op-ed from the policy committee or the members who can sign on. And then we get that drafted the next couple of weeks and give them a few weeks notice that this will be a timeline sort of thing. I think that's a valid motion at this time. Obviously, it's still strongly worded letters, but I think something like that could be making it go more public and letting people know what's happening out there. I think would be a plus in the right direction. Can I, let's see, those are questions. Do we have any questions for staff on that before we move on to public comment on it? Mr. Crass.
Sorry, no, I was ready with the motion. I'll wait until after public comment. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions for staff or myself? All right, with that, we're gonna go ahead and open public comment. Is there anybody online who would like to comment or in the room on this? Mr. Gagne-House, take it away.
Hello. Yeah, so cumbersome is a good choice of words for the Dunleavy DOT. Unfortunately, he stopped getting credit for any improvements to anything long ago and decided obstructionism was a better legacy than building anything that could help anyone. In general, I support expanding MPA boundaries. I think the larger we can make the tax base, and the better, sharper we can make the divide too. I would look into things like moats and gates, toll gates at the MPO boundaries to ensure that people outside of them don't get the benefit, and inside we have safety, security, and transportation improvement. I guess let's do it. I would say though, JKT, Jonathan Christ-Hopkins, he will approve smart transportation funding. If he gets to be governor, there's not going to be any question about, can we build this bridge? It's only some of these other reactionaries that we got to worry about. People that would rather just obstruct, be cumbersome, and not build anything because they know they won't get credit for it. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Gagne-House. You had me at building boats. Any other public comment, Ms. Benson? All right, so with that, I'm going to go ahead and close public comment. Do I have a motion?
Yes, I'd like to move that the policy board author a op-ed for submission. I think with a date towards let's just July 1 seem reasonable. We'll go with that and we can amend it if needed.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
Second.
All right, thank you, Ms. Tidwell. On that, do we have any discussion on that? Would the maker or the seconder like to talk first?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. This issue is drug on and on. I've authored op-eds on this, I think, a year ago. I think highlighting the importance of local control and the ways our community is able to influence how federal transportation dollars are spent in the MPA. I think this is an important issue, and the fact that it keeps getting kicked down the road, we should probably make some noise about it. Appreciate it.
Thank you, sir. Any other comments? Thank you for that. I think, I might say around the first would be good if we want it slightly after that to get the Sunday paper, might be valuable, more readership, but I think that's a fine date to target in general. I do understand that Ms. Little and Mr. Zarnecki would probably have to abstain from that, but I think that's okay. We can manage that in the byline for what that looks like. Any other comments before we take a roll call? I guess I'll say, can I point to you, Mr. Fox, to take a stab at an op-ed that we, the people who want to could edit by committee?
By Friday or early next week, I can send a few paragraphs of information that you can utilize to massage it from there.
Okay, that works. Mr. Zarnecki?
Yes, Mayor Hopkins, just want to back up what you said that for the state employees that we will be abstaining and not have our names on the op-ed. So thank you for mentioning that.
Understand. Thank you for that. I guess, so I'll be off the grid more or less next week. So probably won't get a look at it until I get back late next week. But that's still gives plenty of time. Thank you for that, Mr. Fox. We'll get it tracked up. Thank you for that. So without further discussion, let's go ahead and take a roll call.
Yes, Mayor Hopkins,
Yes.
Mayor Turch,
Yes.
Mr. Zarnecki,
Abstain.
Mayor O'Neill,
Yes.
Ms. Tidwell,
Yes.
and Mr. Kraus.
Yes.
All right, thank you. With that, we have 5 yeses and 1 abstention. We are a go on getting an op-ed drafted for targeting that first week of July or so. Thank you very much. Just on a side note, I think in the next couple of days, I'll follow up with DOT and the governor's office and let them know so we can give them something of a timeline and not blindside them and give them an option to hustle it along. Thank you very much. So with that, we are done on old business 7A, on to new business.
Mayor, it's point of
Oh, yeah.
order. I'm sorry. It is an action item. And I know that we took that action item, but I'd like to have this remain on the agenda for our next meeting so that we can get an update for that. If I can move to postpone this item, along with the amended item that we already moved forward to push us onto our next agenda.
So just keep the boundary update
Please.
on the next one.
That'd be great. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. So with that, now we'll move on to 8A, new business, draft of the FFY, federal fiscal year 27-28, Unified Planning Work Group, UPWUP. Consideration of releasing the draft UPWUP for 30-day public comment period. Mr. Fox, can you take it away?
Yeah, as I stated in my staff report here, this document is basically our staff work plan over the next 2 years to complete our federally required work that we do on a daily basis here in our office. It does go through the development of our required plans, like our long-range transportation plan and development of our next TIP, or transportation improvement program, or short-term funding plan, and other documents like updating our public participation plan. This document is required for us to continue to receive federal metropolitan planning funds for operation of our office. So this is something that we do replace every 2 years, and we operate on a federal fiscal year. So our current one expires on September 30th, and this would take effect on October 1st. But your action item here today is simply to authorize staff to release this for a 30-day public comment period. After that closes and we resolve comments, we'll bring it back before the board for final adoption by no later than the August meetings. Okay, just diving in here real quick. I'm not going to go through every page of this, but I just want to highlight some information that might be important for discussion. Olivia, if you go to page 28. Page 28 in the document is really where we get into the main tasks that we'll be working on over the next 2 years. We have this set out in task 100, 200, 300, 400, etc., with a variety of subtasks underneath that. This first Task 100 group is for our required plans and programs. Very first one is our UPWP, which we're discussing here today, and it just simply states that we will submit quarterly reports to DOT throughout each of these 2 federal fiscal years. The quarterly report is a written summary of all the activities that we undertook in spending those planning funds, and it has all the financial details of how much funds we have spent to date and how much we still have available, so that we know when we get close to the end of our federal fiscal year whether we're going to be under budget or over budget and make accommodations appropriately. The next one is our MTP, which is our Long Range Transportation Plan, also known as our Metropolitan Transportation Plan. This section just outlines that we will be completing an interim MTP update by the end of this year in December, utilizing the new boundary, whether it's approved or not, and that we will complete a full MTP update in 2027 for adoption by the fall. This is in part, again, due to the delays in our travel demand modeling efforts, where we're switching from one software to a new software. Also the delay in getting an approval on the boundary. There's a few other issues there, but it does outline the schedule for those 2 update cycles. And then, yeah, bottom of page 29 is where we start into the TIP document. I am working behind the scenes right now to prepare a brand new TIP, which will go from federal fiscal year 2027 through 2030. And hope to present that template to the Technical Committee and Policy Board at your meetings next month in July. It'll be a few months after that when we actually accept new project nominations and score those for consideration of adding new projects into this TIP. But it outlines the schedule for that whole process, including updating our project scoring criteria, updating the project nomination form, et cetera, for this document. See page 31, next page. And the page after that, our public participation plan and our Title VI plan. We are gonna, this document really just states that we're going to continue to implement our current public participation plan and Title VI plan as written. But within this next 2-year time window, we will hit the 5-year review mark for each of these plans, at which time we'll open them both up for review and for consideration of updates to each plan reflecting our current practices and any improvements that we'd like to see with our outreach and engagement effort. And then below that's air quality, where we'll continue doing our travel demand modeling for vehicle emission forecasts and do interagency consultations for our next MTP and TIP and any amendments therein. And then for our boundary, I have a paragraph written about the delay in getting approval of the boundary, and that we will continue to work with the governor's office to seek concurrence on the new boundary that is hopefully adopted before the end of the year to support those other planning efforts. And then page 34 is our support services, which is really just relates to our day-to-day operations of the nonprofit corporation in our office. Pages 35 or page 35 is our transit planning. We, of course, a couple of years ago, updated the borough's transit plan and updated the Fairbanks Coordinated Human Services Transportation Plan. The one task here, which you can find in the bottom of the page here, is a recent request from Max Transit to conduct a paratransit operational efficiency study for van transit services. So that's the major task here underneath Task 200 to assist the borough with over the next 2 years. But we hope to get that going by the fall using our transit planning funding. Okay, page 36 and 36 to 38. I think that this is the section, the Task 300, which, you know, I guess warrants questions, discussion. But we have, beyond our required, federally required planning work, we can choose to provide funding for additional studies. Could be a corridor study, could be a new plan, a plan update, could be a road safety audit, a variety of different things. And so Task 300 is what we consider our high priority supplemental plans and projects. Then Task 400 is our contingency plans and projects, which are a little bit lower priority. But basically, I'm proposing in the development of the next TIP to fund everything on pages 36 through 38. And we don't have enough planning funds to cover all these, so we will be using project funds for some of these. A few of these efforts are ongoing. Our advanced project definition, our funding set aside for DOT to prepare scope, schedules, and estimates for the projects that are nominated to us. Corey is still working on our Complete Streets prioritization plan with our steering committee. We did complete the West Valley and Hutchinson High School access and circulation studies. And we have already funded the North Pole High School access and circulation studies, and an RFP should be hitting the street for that soon. So that work can begin this fall. And then the Geist Road Chenapump Corridor Study, that was also funded through our TIP document and is under contract in engineering and will be underway midsummer. Page 37, these are the new ones that are being added to this plan, again, that I intend to fund in the next TIP development. So the very first one is the downtown Fairbanks traffic study. This would be to hire a traffic engineering firm to look at the one-way to two-way street conversion for downtown. Take a new look at the traffic signals in downtown as to which ones are warranted or which ones are not, and potentially be removed. Look at driveway density along the blocks to try to reduce conflicts with pedestrians and bicyclists that may be traveling out through downtown. So kind of a comprehensive look at the traffic flow and interactions with non-motorized users in downtown. The one after that is a pavement condition survey for non-DOT roads. DOT does have a contractor that comes to the state of Alaska every year, and they have a vehicle that drives the road with sensors on it to measure the pavement condition, cracking, rutting, all kinds of different things. And then it produces a score to basically, okay, here's your high priority roads that really need to be resurfaced, or that there might be drainage issues that need to be addressed, et cetera. But really that vehicle is only used on major DOT roadways. What we saw this a few months ago is that the Matsu MPO asked DOT, like, hey, if we gave you some money, could you amend your contract with that contractor to do the Borough Road Service Area roads and the city of Palmer Streets and the city of Wasilla Streets? And they said, sure. And so my hope is that we can have the same arrangement here in Fairbanks to have this vehicle drive the city of Fairbanks Streets, the city of North Pole Streets, the Borough Road Service Area roads that are paved. They could drive the UAF campus. They could drive the access roads to each of the schools, some of which, the school district maintains. But just try to pick up data on all these roads for which we have no data in which to prioritize our investments into road resurfacing. It would produce a GIS map that we can all look at and see what's red and see what's a problem. And it will help, I think, lead to better investments with our limited federal funding into the most needed roads for repaving efforts. The next one is an update to our freight mobility plan. This was added at the request of Mr. Krass. We do have an existing freight mobility plan from 2019, but that plan did not have on the horizon the Kinross overhauling through our community. So we want to capture kind of what's happening, what those future plans are with that, but also do some scenario planning for the LNG line and how that may impact traffic locally. Also, if the Ambler Road's built, there'll be more ore coming in from the north, south into Fairbanks to get to the railroad to be sent down to a barge, et cetera. So looking at some of these big freight operations, but then also on the local freight delivery side, when we had prepared this plan, we didn't know Amazon was coming to town and set up a distribution center and have additional freight vehicles in all of our local roads. And so it would be capturing what some of those activities are as well. And pointing things out like these Amazon delivery vehicles, they have all these different routes, and on a given day, they're hitting 20 roads, making deliveries that are on orphan roads that have no maintenance authority, and it can be a challenge for them to deliver packages to those addresses. Maybe they just give those to the Postal Service to hold on to. I'm not sure, but to dive into some of those conversations for local freight delivery, but also some of these bigger operations. And then below that, Pega Road Corridor Study. I believe this is a high priority for DOT as well as us. Again, based on the input we received from our long range transportation plan, our initial outreach effort, we received a tremendous amount of comments on Pega Road, from lack of lighting to discontinuous sidewalks to unsafe intersections. And so DOT would like to approach that whole corridor with a study to look at all of those issues and other things that DOT has identified to put together an implementation plan and a project list for improvements to Pega Road. Next page, Lacey Street Planning Study. This is something that's already funded in our TIP document. but at this time, I think it was pushed out to 2027, so it would still need to remain in the UPWP, but this is an effort that's not yet started, but I'm hearing from Mayor Hopkins and Mayor O'Neill that is a high priority to move forward with the Lacy Street Planning Study to look at that corridor. And then the last one, which was added at the technical committee meeting, Airport Way audit. I feel like I heard loud and clear from the technical committee that we've already studied Airport Way and we don't want another study, like a consultant-based study to tell us, what we already know and what some of these proposed improvements are. But since those studies were completed in 2007 and 2018, really none of the projects or recommendations in those plans, not much of those have actually ever been implemented. A few small things have been done, but everybody agrees that we need to make some movement on Airport Way, and we should develop a discrete project list from those plans or any new observations so that we can begin making some improvements to Airport Way, whatever that may be. And what we're proposing is to assemble a multidisciplinary team. So this would be folks from DOT pre-construction, DOT maintenance and operation, city engineering, city public works, borough community planning, borough parks and rec, fast planning staff, others that we may invite to the table, but they're basically just take a week off work and walk this corridor, bike this corridor, drive this corridor, and have all the players in the room on the design and maintenance side to see like what can we do here? Are there any sections of fence we can just remove from DOT M&O and go out and do it? One idea that came up was on Barnett Street. It's currently two-way traffic between Airport Way and Gaffney, just this little tiny jog. And wouldn't it be nice if it was two-way down to 10th Avenue, where that road has direct access to a school, a hospital or a health clinic, and other destinations there, but there's plenty of road right away to restripe that, adjust the signal, and improve access for that location. So things of that nature that we're going to try to pull out to see what we can do there. Ultimately, I think that we'd like to remove this roadway from the National Highway System and undessignated it as an access control facility so that we can change the whole nature of this roadway. So that'll be part of the discussions, but won't be the main focus of the audit. The main focus of the audit will be looking at what can we do in the 0 to 5 year time frame that are reasonably priced projects to include in our TIP to do something rather than nothing in the Airport Way. And then behind that, beginning on page 39 is our contingency plans and projects. These are things that we've had in past UPWPs. These are other ideas that have come up from different technical committee members as well as staff. And but at this time, that's a lot of studies we're proposing to fund. So I don't necessarily want to add a whole bunch more to our plate over the next 2 years, but these are definitely hanging out there as other priorities that should the technical committee or policy board want to move forward with any of these, we can advance them, move them up from 400 up to 300 and fund them. But none of these can receive funding unless they are in this plan. So let's get them documented. Priorities may change in a year, and one of these things may want to boil to the top for folks. And then behind that's just all the spreadsheets showing our revenue, my estimated cost of each of these planning studies, and it also identifies which of these efforts would be consultant based and which of these efforts would be staff level based. And I think I'll stop there.
Thank you, Mr. Fox. Who has questions on the Unified Planning Work Program? Comments from staff. Any questions? Seeing none, I'll take a stab real fast. So if we had some things we wanted to get added, say as a 400J or a 300K, what would be the best way for us as policy board members or people involved in this to do that? Would it be through the comment period? Would it be through conversations here?
All of the above.
Okay.
You can make an amendment today to add something to this document. Also, it can be turned in as an official public comment, and then we'll add it at that time, and you can vote on it later.
Okay.
But it will be added if it's requested for your consideration in August when you approve the document.
Okay. An amendment in August could also work?
Yes.
Okay.
So it's flexible. If there's something you think is missing or needs to be changed, You have an opportunity today, you have an opportunity during the comment period, you have an opportunity before you adopt it. So there's many touch points. If, you know, so whenever you're ready.
Thank you, appreciate that. Mayor O'Neill, you had a question for staff?
Yeah, thanks, Jackson. This is my first time running through this, so I just want to make sure I understand. So this is a document about planning, and even though there are titles that say plans and projects, when we're looking at the qualifications, it's about the planning. So that's why we see a lot of studies and plans and reviews and things like that, or should we be looking for actual projects?
Should not be looking for actual projects.
Okay.
I say plans and projects because I'll give you an example. The data collection for like the pavement condition survey, it's not really a plan. It's kind of to me, it's kind of a project. You need a vehicle to go drive the streets, collect data, put it into a map for us. Whereas some of these planning efforts are like stakeholder engagement, and we actually have a written document and whatnot, but apologize for the nuance and wording there. But yeah, this document is just for planning activities, non-construction activities.
I appreciate that clarity. Thank you. The second thing I wanted to elevate is I love the idea of doing a housing coordination plan. I think that is fantastic. And if we're reading any federal tea leaves, then maybe there's a priority with housing that we would be able to secure some funding for. So if there was a way to elevate any of them, that would be the one that I would put my vote behind.
May I add to that?
Please do.
So for the housing coordination plan, the resilience improvement plan, the local safety action plan, there are existing US DOT grant programs to apply for. So even though I say I'm not intending to fund these at this time, if we are successful in applying for a grant for one of these activities, then it makes it so much easier for us to move forward with it. But yeah, some of these contingency plans are, well, it's contingent upon getting a grant for it. But we do need to know from the board, would you like us to apply for a grant to try to get funding for one of these contingencies?
Okay. Well, I would like to support that. I guess the other question I have is there any of the other plans that are in a higher priority that would also work for a housing coordination plan?
I'm not sure I understand the question entirely.
I can see that on your face. Okay, let me try again. No, that's okay. I don't think it was a very clear question. I guess I'm just wondering, are there any studies or anything that's in the priority list that could lend itself to a housing plan? So we get some of that information, maybe if we don't get the grant or something like that, particularly for housing, that it can be included in some way, shape, or form into a priority plan. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think I understand your question. Okay. I mean, I think the most applicable one is the Complete Streets Prioritization Plan. So prioritizing redesigning roadways in areas that have existing housing or there's planned housing developments. There's a little bit of a nexus there, but it's definitely not a comprehensive housing coordination study. Those would be kind of one-off locations that would be looked at. But yeah, the interesting thing is that we have federal transportation funding that can be used for a housing coordination plan. That's a brand new eligibility in the current transportation bill. So, but I kind of feel like it should be a standalone effort, not combined with some of these other discrete efforts.
Yeah, I agree with that too. If you need a green light from this board to apply for a grant for a housing coordination plan, I would support that in whatever way I could.
Okay.
Sure.
I agree with Mindy. I looked at these plans as I read through this planning document and looked at 300C. I hope that they do consider housing and new improved housing and corridor when they look at that plan. along with 300D and 300H. Along with 300E, and all those plans have housing portions of those plans that match in and maybe coordinate with that further housing study.
Yep.
Okay. If I may, I have other questions about the plan. Since this is my first time reading through this as well, on page 26 or page 4, however you look at it, it's numbered for both. It mentions equity and justice 40 in transportation planning. And I had no idea what that was, so I did some research, and it looks like that was removed from DOT's portfolio back in January of 25. So I'm curious to find out why we're using that in our planning if it has been removed from DOT as a planning document.
So it's not, so removing that is saying that it's not required to be looked at. So in this document, we're still planning to consider those factors,
Okay,
even though it's not required.
okay.
So there's no penalty to continue to factor in equity into our planning process.
Okay.
But prior, it was required that we factor in equity. Yeah, in this proposal here at the staff level, we're proposing to continue to use equity factors in our planning work.
Okay. A couple of other points in task 400G. There's an error in that, walk, ride and roll. That's on page 40. And then, on page 41, task 400I, the household travel survey update. That pairs with the $300,000 allocated for FY 28 on 43. Is that for the consultant, and how would that household travel survey update be applied and worked? What are your plans for that? Because reading through that document, it sounds like you're going to hire somebody to go door to door, knock on doors, send out surveys and ask people where they're going.
That's the traditional method. What was it, the Nielsen TV ratings? Yeah, you get a little spreadsheet and you keep track of what you're watching and what times and that.
And they
type of
send you
stuff.
$1.
Yeah, and they send you $1. No, that's what happened in 2013 is it was a physical survey sent out, and I don't know if it had a crisp $5 bill, I remember. There was some monetary.
We put everyone in for a try for like 100,000 last airline miles.
Yeah, that type of thing. So the problem with these household travel surveys is that you get a very limited data set as far as how many people you can get to participate, how many people that agree to participate actually follow through with the tasks that they're assigned. It is kind of critical information to updating our travel demand model. And rather than doing a household travel survey like what I just described, in the traditional sense, the last 2 years we purchased replica data, so cell phone data and connected vehicle data to look at the origin destinations where people were going to and from. That's great data, but it's not as accurate as you would want it to be. So, because sometimes you have 2 cell phones in a vehicle, so it's counting 2 people making this trip when it's really just you just want to know the vehicle trip. The data has some limitations, but there was a lot more of it.
Okay.
But that's what we're using right now for our travel demand model update, but it has been recommended to us by our consultant team to do a traditional household travel survey, even though it's limited data set, to help calibrate, validate your big data source. So, but I put it in contingency because I think I'm not proposing to fund it right now. I got to think about this a little bit more.
Oh, for sure. With that programming that we already have, do we purchase that? I know that the state uses INREX. Are we allowed to just use their information at a cost of $0 to us rather than purchasing our own, since it's the exact
If
same
the state
data?
has coverage in our area, yeah, we utilize their data.
And are we currently doing that?
Not INRIX. We're not using that, no. But it's something we can look into, and there's a lot of different data providers out there that didn't exist even a year ago or 2 years ago. So we have stopped paying for the replica data.
Okay.
So it is expensive.
Yeah.
So, but we might be able to find an alternative data source that can help us with this. So more, we need to look at this a little harder
Oh, for sure.
before we pull the trigger on something.
I just hate to see the state spend money on something, then us spend money on something when it's the exact same data that we could use for free and partner up. And it really does benefit the entire community by doing it that way. So,
I agree.
thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. Just want to make a note, Ms. Tidwell left us right around 1 o'clock. Mr. Kraft, you got some questions or comments?
I do, there's some pretty exciting stuff in there, and I love to see it. There's a lot that's there to be accomplished. And I guess, Jackson, how do we, what's our role and how can we help gauge capacity to accomplish all of these things? I'm worried about overloading fast planning with the amount of things that we want to do. And basically some of this is contractors, some of this is existing staff time. And so what's the process for, our input, and how do you gauge that?
So for task 300 and 400, I had to draw a line. Task 300, I'm telling you, I think it's reasonable that we could pull off those planning studies in the next 2 years. Task 400 is just adding work to our plate, which we're trying to say yes to less as we overcommit ourselves constantly. But that's why I drew the line there between the two categories. I don't know what the next transportation bill is necessarily going to look like. Right now, it's looking like we're going to get a lot more planning funds than we have historically. And if we have the capacity to add a staff member to help manage additional planning studies, then great. But right now, we don't have the guarantee of those additional planning funds to expand. But with our current workload and our current staff, I'm telling you, we can handle task 300. But you start adding stuff in from task 400 and we're going to get overwhelmed. So
Thank you. And
through the line.
Please, as we're piling more and more on our plate at the buffet here, please continue to remind us.
Yep.
Any other comments or questions? All right, I got a few, on just page, 6 of this, task 100A. Do you need specific representatives from the Fairbanks North Star Borough to participate in that? Do you need me to delegate that? We just got technical committee members. How would you like to handle that?
Don does this.
Okay, it's Don.
Don helps on the borough side. Don does his quarterly reports as well.
Okay.
For expenditure of planning funds that we share with the borough. So, yeah, he has a role in helping with those reporting requirements. We have a role. So, all good.
Okay, and then on page 35, there it talks about the FTA section 5303 planning funds. Is that the correct number, 5303 for the planning funds? Because they're planning funds versus 5307.
Correct.
Used for grants. Okay, thank you.
5303 is planning, 5307 is operations and capital facilities.
Okay. I'll certainly get some comments in and then probably come back in August looking at 300J, the airport way audit. I appreciated the small things that we can get done quickly with partnership with DOT. I had some good conversations lately about looking at airport way as a bigger project, and the impact it could have in a positive way in opening up access and land and opening up that entire corridor, just like you were talking about, as we look at what we can do with airport way, making sure we're not trying to build infrastructure that would impede that future plans. And, I don't want to throw good money after bad money, so to speak. If we're looking at a bigger project, let's not try to do projects that would not dovetail with what a bigger view might be for that. So taking down fencing, things like that. I'm a strong supporter of building new intersections and things like that. Might be more concerned, but we'll get that in later through our ability through this policy board. That I believe is all I have. Any other comments, questions? All right, for that, I'm gonna go ahead and open public comment period. Do we have any public comments on the Unified Planning Work Program? I'll call the report. attendees. Mr. Gagne Haas, take it away for your public testimony, sir.
Thank you. I'd like to start with a quote from the presentation that just happened. Quote, "We've already studied Airport Way. We don't want another study." Ellipsis. "Nothing has been implemented." Ellipsis. "Everyone agrees we need to make some movement on Airport Way." And it's true. So yeah, imagine 10 years ago when I was starting to enter this process, a little more than that, and about a year away, maybe 2 years away, you were going to start working on those bike lanes. And there has been some improvement, but then about 5-6 years into that project, about 5 years ago now, we said, okay, we will show up to this public process. We'll go to all these Lacey Street listening sessions. We'll talk about this downtown we want to build. And we're back to studies. It seems like nothing gets built. I didn't think I'd miss a previous generation of political people, but they had specific. This goes back to the question of how do we make change? It's a great question coming from a mayor. How do we make change? You take over the process that you're in charge of. Reclaim the work from obstructionism. Amend plans and propose actions. You can. Yes, you can. You can propose specific projects. You can make things happen. In the past, we had a lot of specific projects because the mayors were sort of bottom up. Anyone would come to them, they'd make that project at least be an action item. But the action items never happen. They just turn into more studies. It sounds like you've had a lot of studies saying build a Pegger bike route that connects with the Tanana Lakes and have a parkway somewhere else too, so that downtown is livable. And it turns into 5 years of studies and nothing gets built. Without amending this program or this tip right now, we will build something. You'll have 2 years of nothing. And then another governor might or might not help you. And for example, bike routes are still in this plan. The same bike route thing kicked down the can again and again and again. Yes, you've done some work on Airport Way, but the process is there so that you can have the vision. You politicians, these engineers are almost procedurally prohibited from having opinions and visions. Without prodding, without initiative, you're just spinning these wheels with surveys that come back, and we have enough surveys. It's time to build, but not new roads. Build improvements on the roads you already have, like this 10th Avenue thing. Why is Barnett Street not in here? Time to build.
Thank you very much. Any questions for the testifier? Seeing none, thank you very much once again for the input. With that, we're going to go ahead and move. Do I have a motion to consider release or to release the draft Unified Planning Work Program for the 30-day public comment period? Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Mr. Kraft. All right, thank you. Mr. Kraft moves that we move the release the draft for the 30-day public comment period. Seconded by Mayor O'Neill. Can I get a vote on that?
Sure. Okay, Mr. Kraft.
Yes.
Mayor O'Neill.
Yep.
Mayor Turch.
Yes.
Mayor Hopkins.
Yes.
And Mr. Zarnecki.
Yes.
Thank you very much. With that, we have 5-0. So we're gonna leave that open for the public comment period. And with that, we're gonna go ahead and move on to 9A, informational items for FFY 2026 obligations and offsets. Take it away, Mr. Fox.
Yeah, this begins on page 47 in the packet. We have had a couple new obligations over the past month and a half, but we're still only at 19%, and we're getting really close to July. I do know that a number of these obligations have been turned into the Federal Highway Administration to obligate those funds. With their staff shortage, they are still delayed. There are also some obligations on here that are waiting for tip amendment number 2 for the air quality conformity letter to return to us. And I've sent a number of emails asking for updates on that over the past month. And it's still in the works. I'm not sure what the scheduled delay is there, but I think next month is when I'll be expressing my concern over this. Just a heads up. Again, we are way far behind in obligations than we've been in any previous year being this late in the federal fiscal year. Basically, all obligations have to be turned in by July, and the Federal Highway has to do their work in August, and then the federal fiscal year closes out in September. So I'm not sure what's gonna transpire here. So, I mean, this is out of my hands. This is between DOT and the Federal Highway Administration, but, I guess my hope is that if a bunch of these things don't get obligated, the funds can get carried over to 2027. But, on Monday, when we have our MPO quarterly meeting here with federal highway staff, we'll have that conversation to bring up this concern and the different what ifs.
Is that something we need to urge expediency on from a policy board? Is that something we need to say, please carry this over to the next federal fiscal year? Is that something we can give support for from our end to either urge it or get an outcome that allows us to forward?
Years, August, if some funds were not obligated, we would write a letter, which is, we called it a banking request. So that we can carry forward any unobligated funds in the next federal fiscal year. So yeah, this could escalate to a banking letter in August. So
We've got July, maybe.
Yeah.
Should we know if we want to do something before the July meeting? That's later July.
we'll know by the July policy board meeting whether or not a letter needs to be written of that nature.
That timeframe works.
And then you guys can approve that letter in August. So we don't do this often, but it has happened in the past.
Okay, thank you. Sorry, to interrupt.
And then my last one, page 50, is our offsets, so funding that's been returned to us from private closures or funding the obligations. I'm sitting on right now about $400,000 that's available for construction change orders. And it's June, so I think I'm good. I like that amount. Something's gonna come up on Yankovich or Vast Improvement Program or one of our projects where this money is gonna be needed, but having $400,000 in June is a good balance for me to access.
Okay.
Should any be received, just haven't gotten it yet, but I know they're coming, they come every summer. So we're in good shape there.
Okay. That's good news. Any questions on offsets and obligations? Seeing none, thank you very much for that. Up next, we have other issues under number 10. Any other issues, Mr. Fox? Something you want to talk about the bike valets?
Yeah.
Take it away.
Yeah.
Plumford.
Not really an issue. I just wanted to let everybody know that this year we'll be heading into our 4th straight year of parking bikes for free at the Midnight Sun Festival. When we implemented this in 2023, we got so much feedback. There were so many people who said that they wouldn't have attended the festival if they hadn't had the option to store their bike with secure bike parking. So this is a fast planning driven effort made fully possible by volunteers. We've got our volunteer slots lined out for this year, and we've parked hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of bikes at the Midnight Sun Festival. I think this year we'll probably hit our 1,000th bike mark. We'll be set up at the starter block this year instead of in the parking garage. We've loved our partnership with the parking garage, but I'm really excited to have a little bit more added visibility. Here's a picture of bikes at the Georgeson Botanical Gardens. But anyways, it's just always fun to see them en masse like that. And yeah, we'll be there from noon to 10 p.m. this year. In years past, we've gone noon to midnight, mostly for marketing purposes to make it easier. But due to the Midnight Sun Run, we really see kind of a taper off of bicycles after a certain hour. So noon to 10 this year, free bike parking at the starter block.
Thank you very much. Any questions on bike valet? Oh, Mayor O'Neill.
Not a question, but just want to give a virtual high five for a 3rd year of this amazing service. It is like really awesome that this group does and provides the service each year, and it's become a staple of the event. So thank you for putting it together. It's much appreciated.
Certainly, I believe the chief of staff of the borough is going to be participating too. So.
Yeah, I signed up,
We'll do that.
so it's exciting.
Excellent. Oh, thank you very much. So with that, we're on to policy board comments. Any comments from the board? Seeing none? Scott, go for it, Mr. Kress. Sorry about that.
No worries. Yeah, I just thought I'd mention I've been hearing a lot from my friends and neighbors. I'm over on Chena Pump, and the traffic there has been interesting. I've actually managed to zip through on my bicycle a few days getting to work and have beaten the cars. Very proud of myself. I'm not that fast of a bicyclist though. I think I don't know that this would be the right forum for it, but maybe there some illumination by DOT and who bears responsibility for the planning on how those projects are implemented and how they'll impact traffic. I think the public would appreciate some education on how those decisions were made. There's a lot of folks that are quite heated about how long it's taken them to get to work. I know they have done their best via Facebook, but that's not necessarily the sole communications platform that folks are using. Anyway, I think if we could, get maybe an agenda item here for, how those traffic impacts during projects, how those are determined and planned out and what that process looks like and who's responsible for them, that'd be helpful.
All right, thank you. Mr. Fox is writing that down. Before I pass up my opportunity, I've heard horror stories of the backup over there for sure. That's my daughter's best friend is at the very tippy top of the Chena Ridge, so that's a hefty round trip. I will say DOT reached out to us yesterday. Maybe it was Monday 1st. Monday 1st, and they concluded yesterday. We are officially working with them to designate a detour for people on the backside of Chena Ridge to be able to use and create signage to use Cripple Creek as a detour to get around. So taking the Parks Highway all the way to Cripple Creek. Yes, it's a very long roundabout, but moving versus standing still probably feels a lot better. Many people aren't going to be able to use that, but many are. So we are waiting for DOT to post that on social, and then we'll get that out as well. It's on Facebook. It'll be other places. Of course, that's not always for everybody, but there's already a lot of people taking Cripple Creek. So if you know people out there, Mr. Crest, that are complaining, tell them to go that route. It might be a smidge faster. And we're going to work with them. We contacted the road service area commissioners to let them know that's happening. And they're both DOT people, former and present, so they understand the impacts of it. And so I want to thank DOT also for reaching out and asking us before just doing it. So you're not wrong. They're working on it, but it's pretty bad. So understood. Mayor O'Neill, you've got your hand raised.
Yeah, thank you. I just wanted to take the opportunity to invite anyone who is living outside of the city limits to consider moving into the city to avoid terrible traffic and upgrades outside of the city limits. Thank you.
No, thanks. Nothing against the city.
Deserves a golf clap.
Thank you very much. Any other comments from board members? All right, with that, is there a motion to adjourn?
Move to adjourn.
Seconded, unanimous consent. Thank you, everybody.
1:22.
All right, my record.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming. Three checks.
Got 30 years of
Cheated partnership.
built up angst.